If you haven't seen the previous video in this series, follow the link on your screen or click the link in the description or pinned comment below.
Will you have peace or war?
I will have war. Will you follow me? One last time.
Man, Warner Brothers, New Line, and MGM? That's like half the studios!
It's not even close. Even if you want to technically say that New Line isn't even a studio anymore, there are still, at the very least, 19 other studios I could count. So 3 versus 17 is now considered half? It's almost like the logos for this film were short or something.
Here's Smaug, pissed off at the dwarves, taking everything out on the townspeople of Laketown for some reason.
Well, this is a fucking lie. In the last film that you totally sinned, before their fucking dumbass plan turning me into gold, I told the little thief where they got their shit from.
You have come from Laketown. This is some sordid scheme hatched between these filthy dwarves and those miserable top-trading lakemen. Those sniveling cowards with their long bows and black arrows. Perhaps it is time I paid them a visit. So this is for the fuckers over there that can't pay attention to the last goddamn film.
I'm glad the mayor Dick isn't getting away with the gold, but you're telling me the good guy prisoner dude had a window on only one side but still somehow knew exactly when to drop the makeshift noose for the passing boat? Also, was this Bard's plan when he started making this rope? I'll ease it out the window, and then that fat-ass mayor guy will run right into it. And he'll get pinned to the boat, and it'll rip out the wall of my cell. Easy peasy. If this wasn't his plan, what was the plan?
First of all, Bart had 2 windows in his cell. It's just the other window is useless considering that it's the window for the guards to check on Bart. The other window shown here is clearly the only window to the outside world. Heck, even modern prisons still have these types of cells, even if those windows are almost nothing now. And second, Bart would have done this to someone else who passed by his cell, or even better, the stern of the boat. It would have had the same effect.
After clearly devastating the town, Smaug continues his assault on the people who did him no wrong, so that Bard has a chance to find his video game weak spot.
I was showing the little home invaders what it means when you fuck with me. That was my point, fool. Also, what the fuck do you mean by my video game weak spot? Because I don't have any. Yes, you fucking do.
Meanwhile, this giant tower, which, if I were a dragon, I'd have destroyed immediately just for its pleasure to burn value, continues to go unburned.
Nobody gives a shit what you think would be fun to burn. Personally, it's more fun seeing the people become human torches and then becoming into human barbecue.
It's almost like Bard is in a video game. The dragon has several powers that could end this now, but decides to give him chance after chance.
Hey, Smaug the DM, can I do the joke? What joke? Oh... No, I think my audience will get the point I'm trying to make from the last film and leave the missus out of this. She has nothing to do with the narrator anyway.
Who are you that would stand against me?
I don't know, man, but seems like you could just kill him by the time I snap my fingers. Why isn't this working?
Oh, for fuck's sake! Hey, Smaug, calm down, man. I got this. Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
You cannot save him from the fire. He will burn.
Burn him already!
Jeremy actually yells at the screen cliche.
Yay, he killed the dragon.
Oh, fuck! Hey, you take that back! Hey, Smaug. It's still just as cut and dry as his delivery. This shit is still funny to me. Do I need to bring out Monster of Monterey again? Cause this shit isn't funny to me. Wait, who the fuck told you that?
Dragon poetically falls on the town mayor who was trying to slip off with all the gold.
Wait a minute, why is this a sin? Wouldn't you have removed a sin here for the painfully obvious poetry here of Smaug being the one who kills the Master? You know, two greedy assholes dying together?
Also, you teased this whole big thing with Smaug at the end of the last movie, only to have him take a couple fire-breathing passes at Laketown and then die like a chump ass?
That's what I'm saying! No! That fucker called me a chump ass! That's worth all this shit! Hey, this is my video, damn it! Get the fuck out of here if you're going to be salty for the rest of this. Fair enough, my work here seems to be done anyways. But mark my words, I shall return one day. Is he gone? Good. Let's fix this here, since the last film was already heavily sinned enough.
How long has Gandalf been in this cage? What if he has to pee? Has he had any food at all?
Does it really matter how long he has been in there? And obviously he's a prisoner of war, so of course Sauron wants him to die. Heck, that's why the orc comes out later to make sure he's properly killed off.
I sure am glad they spent all this time on this love story. It turned this B-list dwarf into, like, only the third dwarf I can remember in this movie.
So then why is this a sin? If this love triangle story makes Keeley a dwarf the audience knows, then Peter did his job in fleshing out his character, even if some of us didn't like this romantic plot.
We expect this bullshit now, Ex Machina.
Whatever the fuck, that was not Ex Machina.
Where's the Master?
Halfway down the Anduin.
How is it that random townsfolk number 1 saw Bard slay the dragon, but absolutely no one was around to see the dragon fall on the Master of Laketown? You mean to tell me that there are several people in the background here that didn't notice an upteen-ton dragon falling on the Master?
That's because they died too. Like you said, the upteen-ton dragon fell on them too. It's just the Master was at the center of where the dragon fell.
Will nobody think of the children?
I'm pretty sure this is a Simpsons episode.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Jeremy makes a pop culture ref.
Gold beyond measure.
They said he's been down here for days, but is conveniently rambling this exposition just as the other dwarves show up.
Because unlike you, Thorin does pay attention when more of his company comes into his halls. Even if they weren't there, I wouldn't be surprised if dragon sickness does cause people to go insane and start talking to themselves.
Bilbo pulls out the Arkenstone to assure the audience that he has it, but this is not a wise move in general, and I'm racking my brain trying to figure out what good it does for his character to whip it out like that.
This scene too also has given me pause as to why Bilbo would pull it out. I think we can all agree that for an out-of-movie reason, it's to show the audience that Bilbo did manage to get it when he ran from Smaug. My theory as to why Bilbo would pull it out in-universe is to admire it, considering that when he pulls it out in that scene, nobody was there other than himself.
You might smell a bit of dragon. The women can clean now.
That's racist. And why are you still alive and not in prison?
I don't mind the racist part of this sin. Where I have an issue is for a town of people who had just lost everything to the dragon attack would have the resources to lock away Alfred. Besides, they would also need something to carry that cage, considering where they're going to.
Also, did we discount Grima Wormtongue this asshole last movie? Because I don't even care if we did. He's getting another one.
You absolutely did not.
What gold is in that mountain is cursed. We will take only what was promised to us.
Because that gold is not cursed.
You just missed the entire point Bard was making. The fact is that Bard already knew that anybody going to Erebor would be influenced by the gold that it promises, which is why he asked to speak to Thorin later in the film, and why he asks Thranduil multiple times to not attack the company for his jewels.
Wow, good thing Galadriel decided to show up just when this orc decided he'd had enough of Gandalf being lazy in his cage.
But it's not convenient. In the last film, Radagast went off to inform the others that Gandalf was going into Dol Guldur by himself. Also, in the scene before the orc appears, Gandalf was indeed telepathically talking to Galadriel, so her timely arrival is not convenient.
When you see Galadriel do this, you realize what a selfish elf she's been throughout both trilogies. She had all this power to help people out, and here's the only time she uses her power ever. You know why? Because Gandalf needed her, that's why.
I almost wanted to remove a scene here for the morons who said that her being a badass in the Rings of Power is bullshit. Guys, she has always been this powerful. Maybe not as a warrior, but as a sorceress, she absolutely is. Although for this sin, Jeremy is talking about how selfish she is in not using her badass powers in the movies. The problem is that she herself explains why she doesn't help out in the Fellowship, considering her connection to Sauron. Besides, later on in this film, she is incredibly weakened for pushing Sauron out of Dol Guldur.
Sauron introduces himself via the Lord of the Rings masturbation poem.
Man, shut your bitch ass up!
I am not alone.
Because Elrond and Saruman were sitting around twiddling their thumbs while I saved Gandalf.
But the movie itself explains this. She thought she could do it herself. However, once all 9 ring shades appeared, that's when she needed help, because she might be powerful, but any sensible person would need help fighting off 9 powerful ghosts while carrying someone unconscious at the same time.
Literal Eye of Sauron shows up here, making much of the previous trilogy's first movie seem kinda stupid, but whatever. Bilbo!
So are we going to ignore the fact that the Eye was literally in the desolation of Smaug, which is the biggest reason why Gandalf got caged up here and why he needs this rescue mission? Besides, this reveal began an unexpected journey when Radagast saw a necromancer in Dol Guldur, gave Gandalf the Morgul blade that he found, and Gandalf had that meeting in Rivendell discussing it. Then, in Desolation, when Gandalf and Thrain were escaping, the big reveal happens that the necromancer is indeed Sauron. So once again, Jeremy doesn't pay attention to other films.
Galadriel shows 2 superpowered wizards what real power looks like, completely undermining their power in the LOTR trilogy and making me wonder why she did nothing to help in that entire 3-movie war against Sauron. I mean, she totally banished that asshole right here. In the original trilogy, she was like, here's some elf trinkets, fare thee well.
And this is why I went on a bit of a rant in Sin 37. Like I said before, the reason why Galadriel doesn't help out in The Lord of the Rings is because she has a connection with Sauron.
In place of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen! Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn!
Treacherous as the sea! Stronger than the foundations of the earth! All shall love me understand!
If you still don't get it, basically, if she ever decides to join the forces of evil, she would be completely consumed by it. Heck, in the scene you are showing here, she even uses the light of Elendil to not only banish Sauron away, but to get her out of her evil side when she is finished.
Go back to the void from whence you came!
Phew, glad that little problem with Sauron is over.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Without the Ring of Power, Sauron can never again...
So, you knew about the Ring of Power and knew his name was Sauron here, but Gandalf still needs to stop years later upon reaching for the ring to go and research what the the ring is and shit? F you, Peter Jackson. You didn't even watch your own goddamn movies.
And neither did you. I think we all forget that Saruman is the leader of all the wizards in Middle-earth. So in his position, you would think he would know most, if not all, the information about Middle-earth, especially since he would probably know about the ring being gone but not destroyed. Also, again, considering where he sides in the LOTR trilogy, and the bit of foreshadowing they do here and in Unexpected Journey, I would think this would somewhat clever on Peter's part.
He must be hunted down and destroyed once and for all.
Without the Ring of Power, Sauron can never again hold dominion over Middle-earth.
Okay, good enough for me. I won't follow up with any inquiries until it's too late.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
I need a horse.
I need just one goddamn shot in this movie that doesn't look like a painting got jizzed on by the sun.
But Radagast's home is the only real shot like that in all 3 movies. Besides, I would think the wizard that is as close to a druid as you could be, without being a druid, would want his home to have a ton of sunlight to it.
I came to reclaim something of mine. There are gems in the mountain that I too desire.
What? How did elf gems get into the Lonely Mountain? Wasn't this just a mining colony? Someone either stole these things and brought them here, and the elves never fought to get them back, or someone brought them here and said, you know what, you have more gold than will ever be necessary in life. How about some gems? And poured them out onto a sea of treasure.
And this is where a ton of extended scene sins are coming into play here for this video. Now, the origin for this sin, which I didn't mention in my Unexpected Journey video, is because Jeremy used the few deleted scenes that were in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for his sins video.
A little quiz.
Doesn't Hogwarts set a curriculum? Like, how can professors come in and give quizzes about themselves to the students without that getting out and the professor getting reprimanded?
Why are you sending deleted scenes? How can the books not matter but non-canon scenes do?
In which validates his books don't matter point. However, by doing that, that means if any movie he covers has extended or deleted scenes, I get to use them to validate my points. Anyways, the dwarves indeed mined these gems from the mountain. In this extended scene, Thranduil talks to Thror about the gems he is owed, but as Bilbo says, the elves thought they stole their treasure, and the dwarves believe that Thranduil refused to give them their rightful pay. So considering the dumb questions you brought up, your last point is the answer, considering Thror was going through dragon sickness when this moment happened.
My people also have a claim upon the riches in that mountain.
Well, that's you, the elves, and the dwarves. Only 2 more armies to go before we have a movie that matches its title.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Begone! Ere our arrows fly!
Okay, maybe this is argumentative, but isn't this a clear case where the non-Thorin dwarves could talk some sense into this guy? And remove him from power if he continues to have a treasure boner that clouds his thoughts?
Jeremy says boner.
Begone!
The fuck? He's barely 30 seconds ride from the gate, but these assholes have all come up to the balcony already? God damn this movie. Jesus, absolutely nothing matters.
But Bard was already a good distance away from the gate when the dwarves got back up to the gate. I know it would be hard to tell that considering the cut used, but from looking above the gate to where Bard is in that shot, Bard was not 30 seconds from the gate. I will be generous in saying that he was maybe 3 minutes ride from the gate when that cut happened. So that would be plenty of time for the dwarves to climb back up.
The Arkenstone. One of them has taken it.
Why is Thorin so certain one of his fellow dwarves have taken the Arkenstone, and his paranoia hasn't focused on Bilbo, the guy who was in the treasure room longer than anyone? Yeah, he's underestimating it, but seems like a guy who is out of his mind would accuse everybody of stealing, especially a burglar. Also, if one of his fellow dwarves did take it, then what? Don't they have all the power? Why wouldn't they use it right now?
First of all, I might get the shippers mad here, but there was a clear bromance between the two of them throughout this entire trilogy, which makes the love triangle plot childish in comparison. So Thorin wouldn't believe Bilbo would have it, considering he trusts Bilbo enough to where he would doubt the loyalty of his dwarven brothers rather than someone who was literally hired to steal the Arkenstone. Secondly, if any of the other dwarves in the company had the Arkenstone, yeah, they would try to stop Thorin. However, considering when Thorin found out Bilbo gave the Arkenstone away later on, he tried to kill him. So logic dictates that that dwarf would have been murdered in cold blood for the stone, considering dragon sickness tends to make people go mad.
This is the gateway to reclaiming the lands of Angmar in the north.
Sounds important. Too bad I don't know what it means. Earlier, Legolas was talking about how important this Gundabad place was when it came to Angmar. Now the Lonely Mountain is the most important place again. I've heard so many names of so many places at this point, just get to the fighting already!
Basically what Gandalf was trying to explain in this scene is that Sauron wanted to take the Lonely Mountain as his own, but with Thorin's quest, he was forced to stop him by sending Azog out to kill Thorin. If Azog was successful in killing Thorin before he made it to Erebor, then Sauron could take it as a military fortress northeast of Gondor's Eye. From there, and this is where the books do matter, Sauron could rebuild Angmar, aka the place where the Witch King was made. This would place the Witch King in Nazgul, northeast of Mordor, which means that the forces of evil have 2 lands in which they could use to take over the rest of Middle-earth with. Also, if Sauron claimed the mountain, Smaug would have probably sided with him, which would add a very powerful ally to their side. Needless to say, Angmar was the end goal, and Erebor was essential to making that happen, so it does matter. Also, Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Don't you mean Middle Earth Eaters? Also, he's referring to the wereworms, which, honestly, I'd rather see how they negotiated to ally with these things rather than them being a surprise later. What do you promise a wereworm when you go to battle? Plenty of earth to eat when Sauron rises again. You like that.
The wereworms would still technically be called Earth Eaters, considering the fact that they would eat the earth. But also, I would assume the orcs promised the worms more land, considering in that story that you totally forgot exists, Bilbo mentions that he would be able to fight a wereworm in the Last Desert, which is a desert west of the Shire. So yeah, desertification of Middle-earth would be a great way to get the worms to do your bidding.
This is a fight they cannot win.
That won't stop them.
Bilbo, you didn't hear that.
He absolutely did, considering he was just walking up to them when you cut the scene. This is really close to Jeremy manipulating his scene again. But, oh, wait.
Would you mind with the blood of dwarves?
So, never mind.
This is the halfling who stole the keys to my dungeons from under the nose of my guards.
Yes.
You know what? If this series has one saving grace, it's probably Martin Freeman. I'll take a sin off for this guy, mainly because every time he's on screen, these movies are elevated.
I absolutely agree. He was potentially wasted in the Black Panther films, so I'll remove a sin here as well.
Also, let's not forget the very reason why this whole thing happened. Gandalf met with Thorin and told him to retake the mountain, and his vague reasoning was that darker minds would turn their heads toward it, forgetting the fact that everyone was so scared of this damn dragon that no one dared go near it. And the idea of Sauron's return was not even considered possible at the time. I don't know what darker minds Gandalf was thinking about, but none of those assholes could have killed the dragon. It took a well-placed arrow in a rumored weak spot to take that fucker down. But Gandalf was worried enough that he started all this shit. Never once did he seem concerned about Thorin getting dragon sickness, but oh well, gold is evil. I think we all learned something here today.
Here's the thing, Gandalf was worried about Smaug being in the mountain for far too long when he went to see Thorin and Bree. Also, who says these darker minds would kill the dragon? Because Gandalf was probably alluding to, like I mentioned before, making allies with Smaug. Because having what is essentially a giant flying flamethrower that could destroy a small town in like 3 breaths sounds like a very useful ally to me.
I will have war.
Dwarf reinforcements show up at dawn too, making the Lonely Mountain the same distance from everywhere an army might come from.
You know what? Jeremy almost had a point there. If it weren't for the fact that Dane's army was by far the most unrealistic army to make it there by dawn. Let's make the assumption that Dane's army kind of has the same army movement of real-life medieval armies, given the motivation of their king's return, which would be 14 miles per day. This would be absolutely ridiculous because the distance between both Erebor and the Iron Hills is somewhere between 100 to 150 miles from the mountain. That would be, at the bare minimum, a 6-day trek for them to even get there. Not to mention the fact the time it would take to have the Raven make it there, Dane reading the note, and then him moving his forces out, in which case they also brought not only the goats with them, but also giant siege weapons, which would take them even longer to get there, realistically speaking. So, the point I wanted to make is that there's no fucking way Erebor is the same distance from every army, since most of the armies were already near the mountain.
Basically, the Battle of the Five Armies is a recreation on a much larger scale of the Anchorman fight in Anchorman.
That wasn't even remotely funny, but Jeremy makes a...
Also, it's too bad that in their armor, the dwarves and the orcs look exactly the same, because this is going to be a confusing enough battle as it is.
Hey guys, who's gonna be the one to tell them? Because I hear a guy like that in Hollywood would be upset by this.
So the elves decide at the last minute to not be total dicks and save the day. I honestly didn't expect that, if only because it's a well Peter Jackson has gone back to so many times he has his mail forwarded there.
The elves in this series have only done this twice, and I say twice because I think Jeremy would count the elven reinforcements in Two Towers counts, even though the elves weren't being dicks there and didn't really help all that much in that battle. So the elves helping out all the time is not a cliche in these films.
Spinning! Swords!
Literally, a man who was complaining about how they didn't get to the fighting is now falling asleep to the fighting. If there is one thing that I can take away from CinemaSins is that a movie will never appease Jeremy. So no matter which way you look at it, movies will always lose. So listen up, audience. Watch the film, come to your own conclusions about it, and then go watch the CinemaSins video on it. You'll see why I unsubscribed to this bullshit.
When we were little, my brother and I used to set up army men on opposite ends of the room, and then take turns shooting marbles at the other guy's army. I feel like that's exactly what Peter Jackson is doing here, only with CGI, and with a great deal more wasted money involved.
But this is kind of what happens in the book. Originally, Gandalf told the armies that Bolg was heading their way, and the armies positioned themselves between each ridge near Erebor, and that Bolg started his attack by taking over Dale first. In the film, Azog wants to start a full frontal assault, and then moved his forces into Dale to take over the city. You see how picking up the books and reading them would nullify these stupid sins?
My children! Where are my children?
Good fathers are always asking this question. Is this a Roland Emmerich movie?
Jeremy makes The Patriot pop culture reference.
I saw them! They were down in the old market!
Thanks, random woman. Your amazing knowledge is only surpassed by your amazing hearing in the middle of all this commotion.
The orcs have taken Stone Street! The man
fuck each other right!
Thanks, random man. If the random woman hadn't told Bard where she last saw his family, this news would be completely immaterial.
Wow, we're really doubling up on yelling at the screen sins, eh?
Run away!
Hey, Jeremy, have you ever seen a deer just stare at you when you come closer to it? It's called a deer in the headlights. People have the same thing when they are in so much shock and panic that they don't run away.
Oh my god.
Seriously?
Troll waits an obscene amount of time to kill these kids.
Because the film is showing you the troll's reaction to Bard coming down from the hill. Besides, trolls aren't as bright as an orc, so...
They are dead. Movie that loves killing hates any death that is logical.
How is it illogical, though? The kids all fit perfectly under the cart when it leapfrogged onto them. So the real sin here is... plot armor.
Take them to the Great Hall and barricade the door.
I can't tell you how many times this movie has made me sigh with frustration. Wait, no, yes I can. 172 and counting.
And guess how many times I'm going to sin Jeremy for making me sigh about how many times he has yelled at the screen. That's right.
Abandon the cripples!
Well, I'm starting to think a toddler wrote this script. Or a YouTube comment troll.
Or maybe, Jeremy, you're sinning the cowardice characterization of this greedy little weasel.
Again, the elf flies in at the last second to not be a total asshole. Did you make a Scriptatron 3000 machine with various storytelling elements as buttons, and your small child played around with it one day, and you were like, damn, this is pretty good? Because he hit that button twice, and you somehow missed it.
But how is Thranduil being an asshole here? He doesn't become that until much later when he sees his dead forces in Dale. Thranduil was making his way back to the city to help out when his Megalosaurus died. Also, unironically, Jeremy sins himself.
Are we winning? Forget it, I don't care.
Actually, the forces of good are losing, because they're starting to lose morale. Also,
without this hearing the voices and the dialogue we just f***ing saw in the last scene, the audience would be totally clueless as to Thorne's state of mind.
Again, unironically is sinning himself and now his audience. Hilarious, by the way. As I have stated before, Jackson did this so that nobody is confused at what Thorin's state of mind is at. Especially considering the argument between him and Dwalin made that very apparent.
This treasure will bring your death.
Apparently all it takes to get rid of dragon sickness is to think really hard about what an asshole you've become. And a fantasy sequence involving metaphorical gold drowning.
But that's kind of how you can cure mental illnesses. It involves a little bit of hallucinated visions and a bit of family therapy.
Azog has been doing nothing but narrate every time we see his dumbass. Every time I see him, I get weary. Not because he's the bad guy I want to see get killed, but because nothing he does or says is interesting enough to make him a worthwhile villain.
Oh boy, I'm really going deep with this one here. I'll try to keep it short here, but for those of you who don't know, J.R.R. Tolkien was in fact a second lieutenant in the First World War, even battling in the Battle of the Somme. He was thankfully never a part of World War II, considering he was too unfit for the war, but due to his traumatic experiences, he wrote fantasy books in order to cope with his experiences. So Azog here is meant to represent the higher-ranked generals at the time by commanding his army from Ravenhill and making the decisions as the battle goes on. So even if Jackson borked up having Azog being the main villain in this whole trilogy, this was some damn good respect to Tolkien's main reason for his book's existence. So, to the point being, Azog is not stupid here. He is doing his job as a general.
Thorin luckily comes to his senses at magic hour.
But this is not convenient. The audience all saw that Thorin recovered from his sickness, in which you sin that part of the movie as well. Stop trying to lie to your viewers. It's frustrating as shit when you say it's convenient, but we all saw what just happened.
That's pretty cool, I guess, but where did they hang this bell from to smash down the barricade? I actually would have preferred to see them rig this up and make it work rather than this dramatic entry into battle.
Does it really fucking matter? This is like Jeremy asking how do holograms work in movies. It's a stupid question to ask and nobody was thinking about it at the time. Also, sinning this scene for absolutely any reason.
Oh no, 13 more dwarves.
Oh shit, their king has returned.
Also, that's all the dwarves needed was their king. The massive outnumbering by the orcs had nothing to do with their asses getting kicked before. And considering what we've been told about dwarves and their thirst for battle, what a bunch of bullshit this emotional spark is.
Yeah, because the dwarves needed their king for morale. It's not bullshit considering Dane says multiple times that his forces need Thorin to back him up.
Any man who wants to give their last, follow me!
This whole battle is so confusing. I don't even know why there are people still left to fight the orcs. Last we saw, the elves were getting their asses kicked, and Azog told us the dwarves were pretty much spent. Yet none of these armies look like they have any less numbers than before. How did this turn from a landslide orc victory with massive death on all opposing sides to, well, if we just believe in ourselves, we can beat these guys?
Again, morale. It's a huge motivation, much like in a certain show I watch where...
Come with us, love. No. You leave an old woman.
Alfred does an Eric Idle playing a woman impression. Makes me realize I could have been watching Monty Python instead.
Jeremy makes a Monty Python and the Holy Grail pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the film cliche.
If there's time to bro hug during the battle, it's really more of a skirmish of the 5 armies, isn't it?
Oh, the irony of this sin. That hateful fucking irony.
There's too many of these buggers, Thorin. I hope you've got a plan.
Well, no, I just figured your emotional strength would carry the day.
Oh my fucking god. You know what? Never mind.
We're going to take out their leader.
Magic Ram appears out of nowhere the moment Thorin says this. Suddenly, everyone has rams. Their fellow dwarves didn't bring them, and neither did the elves, so who had them?
Yet another part of the extended edition I get to use again. The dwarves not only brought with them foot soldiers, but once again, ram riders, the ram-pulled chariots, and as Dane calls them, the twiddly woodlies, with them to the battle. Hence why I ranted a bit in Sin 109.
It's Thorin!
And Philly, Killy, and Dwalin.
Despite the fact that no one can tell who is who, even when they're up close, old-ass Gandalf can figure out who these dwarves are from a distance while they ride magically appearing rams.
Ever heard of a scrying spell?
Raven,
Thorin is up there. And Philly and Killy, they're all up there.
Oh no, Thorin and the others might only just now be in danger.
Oh my god, I'm going to have an aneurysm for how many times he's yelling at the screen. Jeremy, just shut up and let the film play out. Stand by, my Cubertese is a little rusty.
The Master's mantle was there for the taking, and you threw it all away. For what?
Bard's family shows up like a thought bubble to prove a point.
Jeremy points out things on the screen cliche.
How can it be that every orc is worthless except Azog?
Hey guys. Do I need to explain this?
Bilbo decides, F my sword and ring, I'll let rocks decide this. Thankfully, I'm the Nolan Ryan of Hobbits. God, Bilbo hasn't missed once. This may actually be the least believable thing about this movie, I think.
Oh my god, finally! A worthwhile damn sin that isn't shitting on this movie. Oh, sorry, that wasn't supposed to be read out loud. Anyways, in those things you definitely don't read, Jeremy, hobbits are surprisingly good rock throwers, which, from the source, says they can hit as accurately as an elf with a bow and arrow, which means hobbits have deadly hand-eye coordination. So Bilbo killing orcs with rocks is not the most unbelievable thing in this movie. That bit is coming later.
Love story that wasted all our time finally ends in the 3rd movie with 40 minutes left. Skip!
Wow, this is a double fuck you, Jeremy. Because I literally hate to admit it, but this scene and where Tauriel mourns over Keely's body going, why does it hurt so much? Is actually the first time a tear fell out of my eye for a movie. The other 2 times where I was full on crying, we'll get to those films at a later point. Hopefully. Come on, you knew what the joke was and didn't remove a sin here? Judas.
This movie about elves and dwarves is strangely titled The Hobbit.
Because this battle takes place in that thing you don't read, which again is why I don't believe in your books don't matter sentiment, because you don't accept that this is still a continuing narrative and what Fellowship Bilbo was writing since the start of Unexpected Journey.
Fight scene has no tension due to previous trilogy's existence.
That's what I've been saying since my first Sins video. You should know from both the sequel trilogy and from the books that these characters should be fine. Oh, wait.
And once again, this troll waited an obscene amount of time to kill the helpless person in front of him. This shit has an unforgivable level of ex machina that even Harry Potter is dubious of it.
There are 0 ex machinas in this whole fucking trilogy. Also, this is giving a different perspective from moments that are happening at the same time, so that we don't have another incident of Thorn Ex Machina. Also, none of the Harry Potter films at that time had any Ex Machinas in them either. You're just making that shit up.
Yeah, we won.
I swear, I think it's finally safe to just say this one more time, and my audience will get the point here. Jeremy continues to scream at the film cliche.
I'll tell you, this movie has violated me so completely, I'm beginning to mistake this for love.
Then Jeremy has never dated a sadist before. Or even do in the bedroom BDS. Jeremy makes a Super Mario Brothers pop.
What we saw was so fake that it can't even register as cool or an adrenaline rush. I don't think I could be more offended even if Peter Jackson rode into the theater on a horse and started beating us with that carrot he always eats in these movies.
Alright, you know what? This might piss a lot of people off here, but fuck it. I have to remove a sin here, because this is the most unbelievable thing in this entire movie. This was still the stupidest moment in this entire trilogy, even for me.
Here come the Eagles, still clearly worried about those men and their great bows of yew, which would have shot them down if they brought Gandalf and crew closer to the Lonely Mountain. Can't we just admit they only show up when the story calls for it, and let go of all those stupid reasons why they didn't fly them farther in the first movie? Let the hate flow through you!
Oh my god. Jeremy finally found out why the Eagles don't help the protagonist, and is still mad by the explanation. But we all know what to do here. Jeremy Eagles Ex Machina.
Here's one of the trilogy's smartest moments, and we'd maybe even consider taking a sin off for it. But later, Azog is going to be trapped under the ice and drowning and still come back for another attack. So they waste the smart moment in order to do something dumb later. And I think that's worth 2 goddamn sins, goddammit. I bet you thought after we gave the last thing 2 sins because of this, that we wouldn't sin this. But you're wrong. A live Azog is a sinful Azog.
You paying the sink out, bro? Because I think you're paying the sink out.
Man, I knew the Eagles are dicks, but not one of them could have helped Thorn out here?
The Eagles have never been dicks. They just like avoiding conflict. Also, how would the Eagles help out Thorn here, considering they are helping in stopping the bats and orc reinforcements right now, and Azog is under the ice when he struck Thorn in the foot?
The Eagles are here.
Yeah, Bilbo is right. The Eagles are here. Why aren't they using their healing tears to bring Thorn back to life? Oh, you say that's ridiculous? Welcome to how I felt every time someone got saved in the last minute of this movie.
You know what I have to say to that? Since you continue to yell at the screen and make pop culture references that weren't even funny, and keep saying that this movie is dog shit over and over again, this is the last time you're going to hopefully suggest Eagles as a solution. Because the sync count is only going to get worse from here, folks.
Go north. Find the Dunedain. There's a young ranger amongst them. You should meet him.
No. Look, I'm already giving lots of leeway here that Aragorn is at least 60 in The Lord of the Rings kicking all that ass. But this bullshit right here is an absolutely ludicrous way to connect the 2 movie trilogies. Hey, go find this kid and be his pal. He's gonna be great one day. I know this because I too saw The Lord of the Rings trilogy. No, wait.
Aragorn was 57 during the events of Lord of the Rings, and he doesn't die until he is 210 years old. Yeah, royal blood in Middle-earth gets you places. Also, Jeremy makes a pop culture reference which shouldn't count.
Also, why bother to tell your elf son to go find a human boy? Out of all the places and people to suggest he should spend time, you don't even have to read the books to find this offensive in every way. Besides, in Fellowship, it's not until they get to the Council of Elrond that they even meet. Not one scene in that movie suggests they had a long history together. F me right in the beard.
Then if Legolas had never met Aragorn before the council meeting, then how come he knows his name and why he defends him when Boromir mocks him?
Damn, I should have also told him about Frodo. F***. Well, I'm sure he'll meet him someday.
Jeremy makes another pop culture reference which shouldn't count towards this film's set.
Look, I haven't been able to find anything confirming that this is Bryan Cranston, but wouldn't it be just like a f***ing movie to put him here for 5 seconds and then pretend he doesn't exist? You know what The Hobbit could have used? Some damn Bryan Cranston, that's what.
Okay, after looking at the crap ton of actors for this entire movie, this guy is indeed not Bryan Cranston.
You tell the others I said goodbye. You can tell them yourself.
Because in this movie, everything is on demand. Need someone to save you? Click a button. The Eagles soar in. Need to make a point? Click a button. Your family is there.
Even though Jeremy's point is valid, he still did his last Eagles Ex Machina right here. And I think we all know where this movie is going at this point.
Borders of the Shire.
Is this a good time to ask whatever happened to Dane, Thorne's cousin? He just kind of disappeared from the movie. He's the new king, right? Oh well.
The extended edition does show Dane, giving not only his respects for his fallen cousin, but being crowned the new King of Erebor by Gandalf as well.
Magic rings should not be used lightly, Bilbo.
I'm definitely not going to investigate this ring that you have for another 60 years, and only after I've almost touched it to see the Eye of Sauron. The fact that Sauron needs a ring to rule the world, and just happened to appear right after our adventure in Gollum's cave, does not make me suspicious in the slightest. Good day.
So if it wasn't made obvious in Sin 368, Jeremy doesn't know shit about Dungeons & Dragons. Otherwise, he might have understood why Gandalf could see from really far away, and why Gandalf thought Bilbo just had a normal ring of invisibility.
Sin the 13-minute credits? Sin the 13-minute credits.
Alright, Jeremy is getting 2 sins here. 1 for singing really beautiful sketches, and 2 for Billy Boyd's best song from both trilogies. Anyone who disagrees, fight me.
But I don't regret, no lie forget, all who took the road with me. Night is now falling, so ends this day. The road is now calling, and now must away over hill and under tree.